We are back with another segment of the Bridleless Driving Challenge with our boy Floki. So today what we wanted to do was introduce the scary feedback. And as you can tell, Floki isn't too scared by it. He's chewing with it, he's putting his nose towards it, and he just doesn't mind being around it. But the true challenge will be to see if he will be okay with this dragging behind him. Because if he's not comfortable with something like a bag dragging behind him, he sure as heck isn't going to be comfortable with a big cart and me rolling behind him. So I want to just make another test to say, are you comfortable with something making noise and loud dragging behind you while we're leading? So I'm just going to show you how we can go about doing that, because confidence is key. Floki is already a confident horse, but I need to help improve that confidence, because dragging a cart is not an easy task. Not all horses are meant for that, especially driving and learning completely at liberty and completely bridleless. As you can tell, Floki is not worried about this. He is the star of the show for many reasons, and one is because of his big personality. So before we start trying to drag, we're going to start by asking him to follow this bag, okay? I want him to get confident with his bag. Then I'm going to stop and I'm going to see if I can rub him with the bag, and then we will start seeing if we can drag the bag. So just because he's confident with the bag in one spot does not mean he's going to be comfortable with the bag in all the other spots. So here we go. So I'm going to ask Floki to follow me, right, and follow this bag, which obviously you can tell he's not too concerned with it. All right, he's thinking about even stepping on it just a little bit. Good. And I want him to be able, right, to find that confidence. He wanted to step on it, and then he kind of jumped out of the way. Okay? So it's really important that he finds comfort with this bag. And you see now he's speeding up. He's trying to avoid that bag. So he's comfortable with the bag in front of him, but you can tell he's not going to be quite as comfortable with this bag behind him. So now that he's getting a little bit more comfortable with this bag behind him, now I'm going to see if I can lift this bag up and touch him with it. Okay? Because I want him to be comfortable with a bag not only on top of him but around him. And if he was a lot more frightful, I would start by just doing this and just letting him smell it, right, letting him see it. But he's not really afraid of it, so I'm now pushing that envelope a little bit further and just seeing if I can just throw this on there a little bit, rub him all around the butt, maybe around the legs a little bit. Okay, I'm not trying to sneak up and hide it from him, right? If he was worried from it, I'm not just going to throw this on. I'm never going to tie this on. I hear a lot of people tying bags on their horses and tying things. You don't ever want to do that, right? Because if you tie, the horse can't escape the pressure. So today you're not going to see me hard tie anything. I might put some of this rope through these holes here, but I won't ever tie it, because if he just gets so worked up and wants to explode, I don't want him to get to that point. Okay, so then I'm just going to ask him to see if I can throw this on one side of him. Right, if he wants to smell it, that's great. Okay, if he were to run around, I would just kind of let some slack out of this rope and see if I can follow. Good, but you can see he's not that worried with this. So I'm going to ask him to follow it again. Good boy. And then I'm going to see if I can go to the other side and do this on the other side. Good boy. All right, so again, just because you do something on the left side also means that you need to do it on the right side. So again, I'm just going to not make a big deal of it. I want him to get used to this bag going over him, around him. All right, because again, when we're driving, there's going to be a lot of stuff touching him. He's going to have things all over him. All right, he needs to be really quiet with it all. As you can tell, Floki isn't very feral. All right, he's a confident boy, but I want to do these tests no matter what. Anyway, okay. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to start with the driving. All right, and usually when I start with the driving, or the dragging of this bag, I do it to the inside of him where it's not touching his butt. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to loop this around here Okay, if you can see on the camera, it's kind of looped around that little loop there. And I'm going to ask him, Floki, to come with me, all right, with dragging this bag. And I can make it and adjust it longer or shorter, not a big deal, all right? But I just want him to come with me while dragging it behind me. Good boy, or behind him, that's it. Good boy. Again, he's not too bothered by this, but if you can see, I put up a little electric fence, right? You can break, or electric tape. It's not hot, it's just tied at the edge of the arena, okay? This is a great way to make your arena smaller, or any size pin can be broken up with just a thin rope of electric tape. You never want to turn it on and make it hot, right? You just tie it up, so if they ran through it, they're not going to get hurt. And it's just a good way to really make any large space a lot smaller. All right, so we're going to go ahead and see if we can get a little trot here. Good. And then again, he's not too bothered. Good, even though, good, it's coming behind him, beautiful. We have never done this before. I haven't even warmed him up today, okay, because I wanted you guys to see what it would look like and the reality behind it all. Okay, so then once he starts to get comfortable with it right in front of him, on the inside, now I'm going to put that bag on the outside where the rope is touching his butt. And now he's having to drag it with the rope touching his butt and that big old bag of feed, okay, around him. So this time I'm just going to ask him to go around me a little bit. Good. Yep. Good. And forward. If you can hear something in the background, it's a nice big rock truck. So again, all of these distractions are great. I'm a big believer that you can't have too many distractions when you're out working with your horse, because the more distractions there are, right, the better, because it's going to get your horse's mind used to a lot of different things. And that is exactly what I want. I want my horse's mind to get used to things, to get comfortable with things that are kind of out of the ordinary. So if you can hear this loud truck, right, don't worry. Hopefully you can still hear me, and Floki isn't too bothered by it so far. All right? So I'm going to go ahead and just rub them. I'm going to let this drop, and we'll be right back. All right, so we just finished dragging it from behind him on the left side. So now what we're going to do is we're going to try to switch sides and drag it from the inside of him on the right side, because everything that you do on one side, you got to do on the other. Okay, and I'm just kind of flicking that rope over his head. Any little things that we can do to help him get confident with just random things all around him, we need to do it. To me, there's not too much preparation that you can do when you're thinking about helping a horse drive, okay, and get confidence, whether it's driving a cart, riding under saddle with a person, or just about anything. The more confidence that you can help your horse have, the more successful that you're probably going to be right off the bat. And because when we hook up that cart and it's attached to him, right, there's no more practice. We are stuck in it together, and so is he. All right, I don't want a damaged horse. I don't want a damaged cart. So I want to do as much as I can to help him find confidence before we go too far ahead of ourselves. Good. So now I'm going to ask for a little trot here. He's a little bit more bothered on this side, but not terrible. Good. Good. Good boy. There. And then when he relaxes, I'm going to stop and I'm going to rub him. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this behind his butt, which again is harder. The reason it's harder is because that bag is going to come towards the outside now, and the rope is going to go on behind his legs, where before the rope really wasn't touching his hind end, and this part can be really tricky. And again, as you can tell, this rope is not, let me repeat, is not attached to him. It's not tied. Do not tie things off on your horse, right? Until you 100% know, without zero doubt in your mind, that your horse is ready. It's just so important. I see it all the time, and it kind of gives me chills to think about it, because it's not good for you or your horse. Because maybe they'll never get used to it and they can create a really bad habit. There needs to be releases for your horse as much as we can when they try to find relaxation. Good boy, Floki. Good. Good. And so you'll see me give a little cookies here and there, right? And I'll probably give him a little cookie now because he's doing really well. But I don't base the training, scrumptious, on cookies themselves. Okay? Because if you base training based on cookies only, right, then I think that they just get too used to having something and not an external as a reward and not having an internal reward. I use cookies to supplement positive rewards, but I also use scratching, I use stopping, I use words of encouragement. So there's a lot of different things that I use to encourage my horses, okay? Because horses must learn how to deal with pressure. They must be confident in dealing with pressure in order to be successful. So the last thing I'm going to do with this bag, okay, is I'm going to ask him to drive this bag with me behind, okay? And how I'm going to do that is this very similar way that I did, okay, without him. All right, so I'm going to ask him to come back around. I'm going to loop this behind him, all right, kind of around this horn again, and then I'm going to ask him to go forward. Good. And now we're going to ask him to drive to the left. So now I'm behind him, and the bag is behind him. You see he's kind of getting a little bit more quick, and he's kind of getting a little bit more worried. So I'm just walking with him. All right, this rope is as long as this round pin or this little broken down arena is. Okay, so if he were to start to freak out, I could just try to let out that rope a little bit, let him run it out, and then when he's back to it, all right, I would try it again until he finds that relaxation. Because you can tell he stopped. He didn't misbehave too much. He just got a little bit worried there. Okay, good boy. And then I'm going to ask him to stop because that rope kind of slid off of him a little bit. And then I'm going to try it again. Good. Again, this is his first time doing this. And he's just a little bit more worried with this than he is with me, but it's not terrible. Good. Okay, so again, it fell off again. I'm going to ask it to stop, and then I'm going to try to maybe loop it around both of these here. Good, and then I'm going to ask him forward and try again. Good boy. So it's important to remember that I'm just taking our time here. All right, I want him to get used to dragging things close and far. I want it kind of moving a little bit closer to him, a little further from him. Good. Any way that I can help my horse get confident to something that's a little bit scary, that's dragging him behind him, the better. Right? It's a kind of unique way to start driving your horse. Right? He's getting a little bit worried there because, again, I didn't ask him to trot, but he's thinking trot. So I just put that stick down just a little bit. Ask him to slow down until he finds that comfort, because Floki is a pretty extroverted horse. So his first instinct is not stop. His first instinct is to go. Good boy. And so when he goes, I can't really freak out. I don't send him forward more. I don't really ask him to stop. I just see if I can go with him, lower my energy, and ask him to stop. Because when we start teaching him to bridleless in the cart, we're going to rely on his confidence, we're going to rely on my energy, and we're going to rely on that neck rope in this stick to help us steer, because we'll have nothing in his mouth, okay, or on his head that helps steer him. So he has to be really connected, really soft. Good. And I'm really happy with that. Okay, because he's just finding that comfort little by little. He's licking and chewing here. Good boy. And for the first day of dragging this, I'm really happy. Good. And again, it's not about how fast or slow he goes. It's about finding rhythm in his feet, finding confidence in what it is that we're doing, because this is a new skill for him. Good. Because to me, a bag is a lot more scary for horses than a lot of other things. So if he can drag a bag, usually, all right? They can drag a lot more things. I'm not saying just because you can drag a bag, you can drag a cart. But what I'm saying is it's a really good first step in the progression to get there. Good boy. Good. So I'm going to ask him to stop again. Good. Then I'm going to rub him. That's really nice. So all I'm going to do now is I'm going to try to see if I can go to the other side here. Okay, so I'm going to put this on the other side. And then I'm going to ask to see if I can now go and drive them to the right. Okay, so I'm going to ask him to drive forward. Good. And then I'm going to ask him to turn. Yes. See if he'll turn. Good. Because that's usually the hardest when they go from one side to the other. And you see how he's kind of getting fast and forward. I'm just letting this rope extend out a little bit so that I'm not having to chase him. Okay, because that bag went from one side to the other and he's just getting a little bit bothered. But I'm just walking with him until he chooses to slow down. Good. I'm so glad you guys are able to see this. Okay, because he's telling me right now, there, that he's not that confident on this side, which I already knew. This right side's harder for him to find confidence. So I'm just going to ask him there to slow down with my energy there. Good, and then I'm going to ask him to stop. Good boy. So that changing from the left eye to the right eye, he got a little bit speedy. And that's going to happen a lot when I'm behind him on the cart. So I want to really work on changing directions with my horse so that they build that confidence. Good. So I'm going to walk again. Much better. He's not taking off trotting, but you can see how he's kind of picking up his pace a little bit. Good. And I'm just going to keep going here until I can help him find good, that relaxation and that comfort that he had on the other side. Again, just because he can drive on one side, on his left side, does not mean he can drive it comfortably on his right side. And in order to really get him where I want him to go, he has to be equally as confident in his left eye and his right eye. All right, and so many times we just really work with horses in one eye or another. Good. I'm going to ask him to stop there. Good boy. So you can see I'm asking him to stop with just my energy, okay? Because I asked him just lowering my stick a little bit, but I don't have a rope on him or anything like that around his neck to stop him. So this is even harder. It's even more challenging, okay? But it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of patience. We can't get upset with what he's doing. Okay, we just have to take it little by little, grow his confidence a little bit at a time, because he was very confident with this bag in front of him. He was chewing the rope, he was chewing the bag, but as soon as that bag went under his feet like it did earlier, or was dragging behind him, he got a little bit less confident. So that's where I'm going to quit for today on this bag. He started to find relax. I don't know if you saw that, but he had a nice little sigh. And we're having a lot of fun with this challenge. Okay, and we want to give you guys a step-by-step process of how we can go from having a Liberty horse to a bridleless driving cart horse. Thanks, guys.